Hi, hello everyone. In this presentation, we are going to show the challenges that we have faced and some learnings from the transition Algar Telecom to SUSE Rancher. This presentation will be conducted by me, Cleber Paiva de Souza, Director at SSYS, and my colleague Edson Cardoso. In our agenda, you are shows some points about digital transformation at Algar Telecom. We are going to show some uh, uh, points related to comparing SUSE CaaS platform with SUSE Rancher. In this project, we were in the middle of this process, so there was some points that need to be pointed out. We are going to talk about the difference that we have between use SUSE Rancher as community and using SUSE Rancher for enterprise projects. We are going to talk about details of the Rancher architecture, some learnings that we got from this project. First, talk about the Kubernetes adoption journey at Algar Telecom. First off, introducing Algar Telecom. This case was published on SUSE.com website, was published recently. First of all, Algar Telecom is part of group Algar. It has a broad portfolio of telecom IT solutions to serve corporate and retail customers. The company offers ultra-speed fiber optic internet, high-quality cell phone, voice, data, and IT services, including cloud and network security services, as well as managed systems for small business. Algar Telecom is a publicly held company listed on the stock exchange since 2007 and is committed to the best corporate governance practices. There are more than 4,500 associates, as the company employees are called, committed to maintain a close relationship with its customers in high quality service with sustainable and innovative practices. Um, we are going to talk now about the need for Kubernetes and how SUSE CaaS raised in this scenario. The customer needed to improve its technological process and meet the great demand of business area. So, uh, after doing some research, the customer decided by using SUSE CaaS to manage its Kubernetes clusters. The decision was based, first of all, do it SUSE model of open to open, avoiding vendor lock-in, so that the project is using technology that is compatible with the community version of Kubernetes, and also with local support in Portuguese from Brazil, and the legal presence that was important for the customer. SSYS and Algar Telecom have been working together in many other projects, like SUSE OpenStack, SUSE Storage, and trainings. We provide to the customer a proof of concept to validate all the points that the customer needed for their Kubernetes infrastructure. So the POC was based on SUSE CaaS, but after the POC and the time of maturing the business, uh, Rancher appeared on the scene, and we had do it to be essentially being acquired by SUSE, and we need some fast responses and decisions uh, uh, that was shared with the customers to decide which path we would follow, if you are going to keep on SUSE CaaS, if you are going to wait some months for SUSE Rancher, and uh, uh, after that, the decision was to go with SUSE Rancher. Now, I let the voice and audio to Edson that you talk about some of the difference of SUSE CaaS and SUSE Rancher.
Let's go ahead. Okay. Here we'll see the difference between the technology that deliver Kubernetes and are or were supported by SUSE. SUSE Container as a service offered in its time a way of installation maintenance of Kubernetes cluster. That's it. No major additions to the Kubernetes ecosystem are offered by this product. So, meanwhile, SUSE Rancher offers a much wider range of facilities for Kubernetes ecosystem. As we can see below, there are several layers of solutions within the Rancher ecosystem, not just Kubernetes engine management. Here we see how SUSE Container as a Service was installed using Scuba as the main actor in the solution. In general, the installation is very simplified. We make available the operation system, which is always SUSE Linux Enterprise. We add the necessary software channels, we install Scuba, and proceed with the Kubernetes cluster setup. Maintaining the solution is as simple as installation and is all about adding, removing, stopping, restarting resources from the Kubernetes cluster. There is no other additional facility in this process. Here we can see the number of advantages that the technology offered by the Rancher ecosystem has enabled and will continue to enable for Algar Telecom. We can see SUSE Rancher provides cluster operation management, not restricted to our own cluster, like SUSE Container as a Service. The deployment, the management, and monitoring of a Kubernetes cluster on-premise or on cloud. Centralized security policy management. We have a standard to access control, network, and pod security with centralized policies. We have a way to do assessment at the configuration cluster against security best practices. Authentication using Active Directory, LDAP, and SAML, and others. Protection and recovery against cluster failures. Global and private application catalogs provided by Helm and Helm charts. Observability in all Kubernetes cluster, and much more. Here we can see, we see a little bit of the difference from the deployment models of the SUSE Rancher. We have the community model and we have the enterprise model. In the community model, we see there are no restriction about operation system to use. We can use a lot of operation system. There are no restriction about which version of the stack to use for RKA, RKA2, K3S, Docker, or Containerd. Also, Rancher Manager or SUSE Rancher Manager, always in latest version. There is no architectural recommendation or restrictions. If it works, it is all okay. We can use also any Kubernetes version and etc. So in enterprise model, we need must check in which operation system version are valid to keep the support. There is strict range of versions to use for Kubernetes, RKA, RKA2, K3S, Docker, Containerd, and SUSE Rancher Manager. The same for etcd, Flannel, Kernel, Nginx, Ingress, depending on Kubernetes version. When we talk about RKA, RKA2, K3S, For example, RKA2 was not recommended at the start of the project. Rancher Manager installed as a local cluster. It's important for high availability in a 3-node minimum cluster setup, and we need to prefer it in a specific or independent cluster. It's important to remember that. Here we see, in the slide, we see the architecture type delivered to customer, Algar Telecom. At top, we see a SUSE Rancher manager in your cluster, all in one cluster with ads, the control plane, and worker nodes. Below we see other two clusters, the SUSE Rancher with RKA engine, named station in development, and SUSE Rancher RKA cluster named production with its master nodes, ATSG, control planes, and worker nodes for both. Here we can see some warnings about this project, about our discussion using SUSE Rancher or migrate SUSE container as a servers to SUSE Rancher. Okay, product subscriptions are different. It's important to remember this. In SUSE container as a service, the operation system is included, not at SUSE Rancher. It's important to remember this. On SUSE Rancher subscription for operation system and SUSE Rancher are different components, and sales team should be aware of it. It's important, remember. Check matrix compatibility for SUSE Rancher and its Kubernetes components. Check SUSE Rancher best practice. Rancher Enterprise must follow some requirements not enforced in Rancher community, for example. It's very, very important to remember workshops and SUSE training. Here, for a company that's making the transition to Kubernetes, it's important to remember that technology is new and disruptive. Knowledge transfer are required. It's very, very important to remember this. So it's important to remember the trainings offered are valuable. SUSE training for Kubernetes and SUSE Rancher training are fundamental to consolidate concepts and some key points. So very, very, very important to remember this. So, and what did we learn? This project was closed in December 2020, and most directions or information were not available yet. The business maturity time must be respected. It's important to remember, there is a customer journey from traditional infrastructure to Kubernetes infrastructure. Always check the documentation. Always check the documents. With Rancher in a weak versions and standards could be changed. Customer interaction and decision sharing. It's important. Talk with your customer to share the decisions in project. What decisions? Can we use SUSE customer as a container as a service, CaaS, SUSE container as a service, or can we use SUSE Rancher, SUSE Rancher RKA or SUSE Rancher RKA2. There's a lot of decision to share with the customer in this project. That's important to the engagement and commitment with this customer. It's important to remember too your relationship with your partner. It's very important to facilitate the cooperation with this project. For example, SUSE account sales team helped us in reorganizing bill of materials. SUSE and Rancher engineer team helped us with standards and best practices. SUSE consulting team helped us a lot with quality assurance of the deployment. SUSE training team helped with materials in beta at that time for customer training, for example. So it's very, very important. Use your relationship with your partner to facilitate the way, the facilitate cooperation with customer and project. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the attention, and we will be in the chat for question. And see you at the next opportunity. Thank you very much.